what is your speech about today?
My speech is about electronic medical records and how they can be used in the health insurance industry.
Electronic medical records. And for these medical records, is this a persuasive speech?
Yes.
Okay, persuasive speech is 7 to 10 minutes,
Yeah.
or 7 to 9.
Yeah. She said it was about like 6 to 10. So yeah, about around 7 minutes.
Okay, let me get out my timer too. Okay. All right. Whenever you are ready, you can definitely begin.
Take a moment to think about the value of your life. Now, think about a particular situation or a particular person, like a close friend or a family member. Let's say it's a close friend. Now, think about a particular situation with that close friend, and let's say they had some severe headaches, and you took them to the doctor, and the doctor ran all of these tests like the MRI, the X-rays, and they told you that in 3 weeks they will send you your information by mail. As the weeks go by, the headaches get worse and worse. Little do you know, your friend or the doctors know, that your friend has developed a growing brain tumor. Is this consistent with the way that you value your life? This is a life without electronic medical records. The future is in your hands. Now, today what we will be talking about is the challenges and opportunities within electronic medical records, and also the benefits that go along with it. So, one of the main problems in the healthcare industry today is the lack of use of electronic medical records. Did you know that 4 out of every 10 hospitals have implemented electronic medical records? That means 6 out of every 10 have not implemented electronic medical records and have not experienced the full benefits of having that. But there are two main reasons why this is the case. Number one is the initial investment that comes with having that system implemented, but also the training that goes involved, which adds on to the cost, which adds on to the headaches and the frustration and the confusion about what is really going on with electronic medical records. Well, this is what I'm here for, to bring a certain light and relieve the confusion and the frustration of how to use electronic medical records. So, there was a Massachusetts experiment done in about 2012 that showed that brought together primary hospitals, pilot hospitals, and big ambulatory hospitals, and the primary care physicians, they really focused on the completion of their medical records of the patients, and the pilot hospitals, they talked about the advancement in the radiology section of their department, and also the big time hospitals, they focused on the ambulatory cost savings and what that came to. So man, this is hard to do without a PowerPoint. But there's also been an advancement in improvement in health when it comes to using electronic medical records. When it comes to screening childhood obesity, there are many people that, or many doctors that use the electronic medical records to predict when the child would become obese or how they would become obese. This has made electronic medical records more of an interactive stage rather than just a static medical record in the industry. Also, in the dermatology industry, they also use the electronic medical records to use, like for radiology, they use it to take pictures, and they also go forward and just using the computer to actually have just one-stop shop and try to look at all the different medical pictures or the drugs that they would need to use, and so forth and so forth. And then there's also a bigger transition into better public health. So when it comes to public health, we already know that the public health department already researches and finds out more about the diseases that go on with many people in America. And if they have more interaction with the community health care, with the community health care centers and the individual, it will be a lot better using electronic medical records. So if you look at the relationship between the public health department, the community health centers, and the individual, the public health department can research all of the different things that go on with the diseases, and then they can inform the community health center so that they can know what they're looking for when the individual comes in to diagnose the actual disease. And when the individual knows what is going on, they're educated enough to go out into the community and actually help other people go through the process of understanding what is really going on with themselves. And the same goes the reverse way. The individual can go into the individual can go into the community health center and actually, come in with the disease. And if the community health center doesn't know anything about the disease itself, they can send it over to the public health department, and they can figure out what the disease is, research it, and then they can bring attention to it and bring it off into the community. This can all be done through electronic medical health records. So when it comes to that, some of the key takeaways that we can have is knowing that electronic medical records are in a lack of use at this point. Also, that electronic medical records can be very efficient. They can be an advanced way to improve certain things that go on with our public health and our better well-being. And also that using electronic medical records is probably the best way to go about doing anything when it comes to anyone's health. Now, my father was just recently diagnosed with diabetes. If he did not have medical records, electronic medical records, they would not be able to predict when he would have it, or how he would be able to try and fix or try to figure out what he needed to do in order to relieve the type 2 diabetes. This is the importance of electronic medical records. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. Man, that was a struggle. I did a lot better in class too. It's just weird. I guess I just had the PowerPoint. That's what it was.
Yeah. All right, your time was 7:20.
All right, let's go.
All right, couple things. You can take a seat and relax.
Man.
Okay, there's a lot of things I noticed with the speech. Do you want to hear the good or the bad first?
The bad first.
The bad. All right. Do you usually, hold on, let me ask you this question before I continue. For your presentation, were your main points that you were pointing out the problems and the insufficiencies associated without using electronic medical records? And your other main point was explaining how electronic medical records could benefit.
Yeah.
Those were your two main points?
Right.
Okay. So you did explain your main points correctly, and you did emphasize them, which is great. Do you usually work without note cards?
Yeah, I usually work without note card.
Because the reason I asked is because maybe you can because I noticed that you were stuttering and that you weren't fluid. I noticed that maybe you could use a note cards that's I would not necessarily a crutch, but to make sure you keep your pace going and figure out where the main point and the sub points under it.
Yes.
For instance, there's a lot of times where, and this comes later, where you jumped around because you forgot your train of thought and you jumped into another topic, but went further back into it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just watch out for that. So you don't really, if you're deciding to go with the note cards, if you don't, that's fine. But if you do decide to, it doesn't need to be extensive because you already knew your speech,
Right.
which is perfectly fine. but it's just a reminder. It's like, hey, you need to go from A to B to C, and then go back and go from A to B to C, and you just figure it outlines your order that you're going through. So that's one thing. Second, I noticed that you brought up stats within your presentation.
Right.
With every stat that you bring into your speech, make sure you cite your sources. Because I know you said 4 out of 10 hospitals do not, well, 4 out of 10 hospitals do use electronic medical records. But where did that stat come from? Did it come from the Huffington Post? Did it come from CNN? Did it come from university hospitals? You know, it's just when you cite your sources, it gives more credibility to the stat that you're saying, and it's not like a stat that you just made up on your own.
So you want me to make sure that I cite it while speaking it as well?
Exactly. So I know it's probably annotated in your bibliography, but I would say according to university hospitals, 4 out of 10 hospitals, blah blah blah.
Okay.
So let's make sure whatever stat you use, cite your sources. Another thing too, what I would do is go back into your presentation and work on your transitions.
Yeah.
Because I noticed that you were flowing nicely, but the problem was like you knew your idea, but you hopped ideas a lot. This is coming from like the no cars aspect and the no visual aid to really guide you. What happens with that is that when you hop topics, it's kind of people could lose you.
Yeah.
And I know that like yours lacked transitions, and they weren't as smooth. Just make sure when you're going to each topic, subtopic, that you go from like pretty much describing like, well, these are the problems I mentioned about electronic. These are the problems I mentioned without having electronic medical records. Now let's look at the benefits that can come from it.
Got it. Okay.
So let me add a couple of things too that I want to bring up. Okay. Another thing I noticed that you say a lot.
Yeah.
When you were describing or when you were talking in mid-sentence, you would say things like the dermatology sector uses electronic medical records to really help out when dealing with patients. And it's kind of what does, it takes away from the impact of your sentence structure and really messes up your fluency. So when you're going back, make sure to eliminate as much as possible.
Okay.
It's sometimes difficult. It's subconscious. No one intentionally does it. But when people think faster than when they speak or when they know what they're about to say but they can't say it, that's when they say to give themselves some more time to actually understand what you're about to say. Also watch the stutters and the repetitiveness, and this all goes with relaxing when you make mistakes. Because I know when you make a mistake, you don't show it physically, but in your speech, it's kind of like you're beating yourself up for it.
Yeah.
So you try to go back to the same line and say, well, and what ends up happening is because you try to fix the line that you messed up on already, it kind of makes it sound really repetitive and really choppy. So just make sure when you are presenting that when you make a mistake, take a deep breath, relax. Because you did that earlier, take a deep breath, relax, and just continue on with your next sentence. Let's see. Oh, okay. The solutions. You were very descriptive in your problems of the electronic medical records. What I would do with the solutions is go more in depth with it and explain map out, let's say, 3 advantages to having electronic medical records and explain why those advantages would benefit.
Okay.
Because you did explain that it had advantages, but you didn't explain how it was an advantage.
Okay.
So yeah, like pretty much related back to like what the problems were and explaining how EMRs, that's what we call EMRs, can fix it in so many words. So just add more descriptive, more details to make sure that your benefits actually go with your topic.
Cool.
And finally, stronger conclusion. Because at the end, it kind of like broke down and it wasn't strong and it didn't tie up all the loose ends. What was great is that you had a personal connection with your own father.
Right. That's
definitely a attention getter. It gives people a better reason to why they can relate to this topic, because it's just as simple as like someone someone from your family went through it. Anybody's family can go through it.
Mhm.
But after that, it kind of like crumbled.
Yeah.
So make sure that it's in strong. You tie up all loose ends. Reiterate these were the problems with file EMRs. These were the advantages, and I have discussed. I discussed all these things with you today. Hopefully, like different companies can like pick this up in businesses.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's see. But other than that, some of the great things I pointed out, great attention getter in the beginning. Your rate was really good. It was very relaxing, very, very slow. Very slow as in like it was easy to understand you.
Okay.
It wasn't very like fast to the point where it was rapid and no one could catch what you were saying. So your rate was great. Like I said, great attention getter, great knowledge of content. You knew exactly what you were talking about. You were very confident, even though you made mistakes.
Yeah.
You were very confident in how you were speaking and made great eye contact with the audience. But if I could just go over everything, cite your sources,
Yeah.
work on your fluency, relax, make your solution be description on your solutions and stronger conclusion. But overall, content wise, it was definitely there.
Okay.
You just need to add some more, and you were in the time limit too, so that shouldn't be a problem.
That's cool.
I know I talked about a lot, but do you have any questions regarding this?
The only other question I really have is just how would I go about making the conclusion a little bit stronger than what I already had, because I know the conclusion wasn't totally strong at all.
Mhm.
Like it was more like one of those things where it's just like, okay, I know that I want to use my father as a personal story in this, but how do I kind of connect it all? Like that was one of the things that I had.
Good. How you can make your conclusion stronger is one of the ways you can do it is use the personal example in there. You can transitioning into your conclusion. You can say, okay, so like I said, today I've talked to you about these problems associated with EMRs. Here are the advantages to the EMRs, and then after you recap what you said, then you can use your father example. Say my father is living proof of how EMRs help because he had diabetes, and if it had been for the EMRs, he probably wouldn't have known and would not be able to get the medical assistance he needed. And you can explain how like different cases like that happen each day, and these are why. And I'm pretty much saying my family's a living example of it. Now, let's see, yeah, you explain that it could definitely happen again, and it's like thank you for your time, and just end it like that. Just make sure it's just like because what happens when you stutter, you broke apart your conclusion. That's the reason I said like when I say make it stronger, make sure you delivered it fine, that you reiterated your main points, recapped everything, make sure no loose end is out, and you have another personal example where you can draw people back into any of it.
Got it. Okay. That's cool.
Well, yeah, if you do not have any other questions, then you are definitely free to go.
Cool. No problemo.